All right, this is jpeg2RAW, show number 88, recorded on August 20th, 2013. And tonight we have returning from, I think the last time you were on was show 24, way back in early 2012. Tonight's guest is Sarah Cornish. And I tell you, one of the things, I was thinking about this today, one of the things I love about doing this, and we don't do this for money or anything like that, but one of the things I love about doing this is meeting all the great photographers I get to meet. And occasionally we get to have one of them back. And Sarah is not only a great photographer, but a wonderful person. And the show has allowed me to meet such great people, and I'm I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming back on the show, Sarah.
You have to be careful because I'm hormonal, so I cry easily. So if you get too many, it's going to start.
And you're doing this for us. You coming back on the show, and you are pretty far along. And let's go ahead and address that thing right behind you. It says M5H.
Yes, I get that. That's the most popular question, is if I'm going to change the name of my business. And I'm like, no, because I'm terrible. We were done at 4. We were sure. And then my youngest hit preschool age. She actually still sleeps in my bed. She's like a total baby. And I realized she's going to school soon, and that baby fever hit. So we were just like, okay, what's one more? Let's just. My husband's all for it. He's a stay-at-home dad, so he's used to the chaos. He wasn't like too horrified. We're actually like, should we go for 6 or stop now? Like it's I like the younger, so it's like your modern day Partridge Family without the singing and musical talent.
So the answer is no. You're not changing the M5H.
No, just because
Five Hens.
Yeah, it's all just the URL and the domain and the business license and taxes and all. But, I mean, I really only have 2 hens because they're female, and I didn't realize hens were female. So my boys will be a little less traumatized now. We'll just play it off like I had some pretty collectible.
Yeah.
I'm actually afraid of birds. Like, in real life, I'm terrified of birds. So it's actually ironic that my last name would be Cornish and that I would name my business.
Yeah, maybe hens. Well, once you develop a what do you call it? Your name out there, you start marketing all that. It would really be a big ordeal to change it. Even something as simple as changing a 4 to a 5 would be a big deal.
If we have 6, then it's going to get kind of. I really think we'll stop at 5, honestly. But just humoring myself. My husband hopefully isn't watching this in the other room because we'll be closer.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about your business, your identity.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's recognizable, and you don't really want to mess with that. It's because I don't want to break anything. I don't want the government coming after me because I filed some paper wrong, or I'm just.
Well, yeah, not just that, but you've built up. If you go to your Facebook page or you go to your web page, you've built up a lot of SEO, a lot. You do a search on Sarah Cornish, and a lot of stuff comes up. And changing a name would hurt some of that. I mean, I'm sure you would recover, but it's a big ordeal. It's a big ordeal that probably is not worth much in the end.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I really don't think the baby will mind. I'm sure he won't even notice. He's pretty much gonna eat and poop and then grow up and get into stuff and do what all our other kids do, so he'll be just as loved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he won't care, or it's a he. Did you just say that? Okay.
Yep, it's a he.
Okay.
We're excited. 3 boys, and then we have 2 male dogs, so we're definitely outnumbered at this point.
You were asking me before the show or in email about the chat tonight, and Kathleen, who was a co-host on here, who knows? I think she's within a week or 2 of her due date, so it could happen anytime. And I keep teasing her about when he is going to be born, because she has two sons now. I keep teasing her about when he's going to be born. They don't know the sex. No, none of us know the sex. I'm just teasing her about it. But of course, we just hope that yours as well as hers is born healthy.
Healthy baby.
Yes, that's the main thing. Well, before the show started, we were talking about your website, and I know we were talking about me getting photos off where I would get photos for the show tonight, and we're talking about the difficulties around managing a website. And I don't want to spend too much time on that, but you had some good comments in the pre-show, and I wanted to mention those in the show.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like when I first purchased, I noticed everybody did the flash site with pretty music. That was like all the rage because I bought my website like 5 years ago. I actually got it even before I opened my business, trying to plan everything out. And then as I started to go along, I realized it just really wasn't client friendly. It was confusing. I had 2 different URLs, because I wanted people to be able to find me, but I think I actually kind of made it worse, because I have it spelt 2 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So now I just want to stick with, my blog site and make things a little more streamlined, and now I have to worry about getting my, domain name from Blue Domain and kind of going back and forth there. It's kind of a nightmare. So, it's something to think about. I recommend hiring people because I did it all myself, and I could have saved myself so much time and sanity. When you focus so much on the non-creative stuff and you're a creative person, it burns you out. You have to start thinking about things that just don't come easily to you,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of takes the fun out of all the things that you really love. So,
everybody is different, but I hear that quite often from some of our guests that who get really successful. That they say, farm out, hire out the things that you're not good at, and focus on the things that make you money.
yeah,
And yeah, that's a good thing. And you also mentioned something there that maybe not everybody thinks of, but you thought of for your site, and we do for jpeg2RAW too, is when you have a name like My Four Hens, the 4 people can spell multiple ways. There really is only one correct way in your case, but people may spell it with a number 4, the word 4, or even FOR. So sometimes it pays off to buy if you can afford it, all those domains, and then
definitely.
just direct them all to the same site.
Because I really didn't think anybody else would be interested in the name. I mean, if my last name wasn't Cornish, I probably would have thought of something a little more. Even now, like my regular email is just My Four Hens. And when you go to the store, everybody wants your email address nowadays to send you newsletters. And so when I tell them, they're like, what? And I'm like, never mind. It's just because I don't have my kids with me every time I'm in the store.
Yeah.
And even now on my fan page, people don't make the connection between my last name being Cornish and the kids because,
Yeah.
they don't even really know my name, so they're like, oh, I get it now. And I'm like, yeah, I thought I was clever, but...
Before that, they thought you were just a fan of chickens or something?
Yeah, like I really love birds, and some people are really good at that. Like actually, I love farms and barns, and I think maybe that's rubbing off from living out in Colorado for a couple of years. But every experience with the farm animal has been kind of horrific because for some reason, I don't know, I've been pooped on, or they're like chasing me around. I've been chased by geese. It's funny. It's really funny to watch. But now I'm scarred. So.
That's crazy. So before it rolls off the page, let me ask this. Somebody out in chat, Lanny out in chat, asked the question that your photos on Facebook always look so clear and crisp. And I know a lot of people struggle with this. They look good on their computer. They upload them to Facebook, and Facebook does something because you haven't done it just right, and the image isn't. Yeah. So they're saying yours looks so good. Is there any special technique you have that kind of fights the Facebook adjustment?
I fight so much with Facebook. I've tried everything. I've tried doing 900 by 600 for your landscapes, because I hear that's the best and the optimum. But then I see these big, beautiful photos in my stream, and they just, you click on them, and it takes up and I have a 27-inch iMac, so I want that. I mean, that's so pretty. But when I do it, it's all pixelated and mushy, and I have a little bit of a matte tendency with my processing, so Facebook eats it. It looks horrible. So then I had started using Flickr, and just, dropping the Flickr link right into my description box or whatever it is. I'm Italian, I talk with my hands and you can't see, so if I'm doing weird stuff, that's what I'm doing.
That's fine.
But but now what I've been doing is, someone had mentioned PNG format instead of saving as a JPEG format. And so I actually just started maybe a week ago doing this. I go to File, Save for Web in CS5, and then I save as a PNG instead of a JPEG. And I actually save it for web through Photoshop's preferences instead of just save as and then saving it as a JPEG like I used to. And it's made a little bit of a difference now. It looks like the past week I've been pretty happy with it. It's not always perfect, because even when I upload it to Flickr, when I print them, they look beautiful. And then, I get it on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, I hope people don't think that my photos really look like that, because it does. They look, it's just nasty. It's bad.
Yeah, I've heard that before. PNG often works better than JPEG on Facebook.
I didn't believe it at first because I tried it and actually uploaded a JPEG and a PNG comparison, but I think the photo just wasn't a good example to kind of go off of, so you didn't see the difference. So I think, too, it really depends on your image and how it's processed. And however, Facebook just likes to compress the heck out of everything. I've been reading everything I can get my hands on. It's just, I think it's luck.
Well, your images online look wonderful. So whatever you're doing great.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
and I should mention something before we go on because I forgot, and no one has asked out in chat yet. But where is Tim? Tim is in Disneyland right now with his family on vacation. So Tim is missing tonight, and he's iffy for next week because I think they're coming back next Tuesday, a week from today. So I can't imagine he's going to want to travel all that way and come on the show. But he's pretty dedicated, so we'll see. That and the fact, about 20 minutes before the show started, I got banned from YouTube. This was supposed to all be streamed through YouTube, and the beauty of that is we can stream one big bandwidth, and everybody can watch it on whatever their stream is. You know, from a low bandwidth to high bandwidth. YouTube would adjust for that. Well, we got banned, so we'll be back and at some point with that. I learned my lesson on what not to do. So this week we have this, but it's still working. This is the old way, so it's still a fine way. Okay, enough of that. So, last time you're on, we covered a lot of topics, but a lot of new people we have watching who may not have watched it then. So if I go over some of the same stuff,
Yeah, it's okay. I don't mind. I like to talk, so.
So let's start off with how you got into photography. Were you always interested in photography from a young person, and was this your career? As you became an adult, did you go right into photography, or was there something in between?
Actually, my aunt is a nature photographer, and she was really awesome. And I got to backpack across the United States with her when I was 15. She was a film photographer, and it was rugged. I mean, I was 15 and I was a press. So I was like a tomboy press, but I had like all my friends, and she invited me, and my mother was like, "You're gonna hate it." I was like, "No, I want to go." So I mean, we literally drove from Connecticut all the way to California. And we camped outside in a tent, in New Mexico, South Dakota, and she gave me a little film camera. And I wasn't shooting in manual, but, I just got to be creative and have a good time. For some reason, I never got to see the film, which kind of bums me out, because now that I'm older, I'm really interested. Then I don't think I really cared. It was just, she let me kind of, like, be an adult teenager, so it was exciting at the time. But I ended up getting homesick in California and flying back before we finished the trip, so... But, I mean, even before that, I remember being, like, 9 years old and asking for a Polaroid camera for my birthday. So it's just, I think I've always kind of just been a creative person, and photography was another outlet. And then, as I got older, I just became more interested. And we had kids. That's always, like, I feel so, everyone's like, oh, we had our children, and then. But really, I mean, I had bought the camera mostly just to have snapshots of our kids, because we kept buying these cheap point-and-shoots, and they kept breaking. We had no money. So I literally used like our income tax money. It was like a Christmas present for my husband to myself with our income tax. We used to call them income tax Christmases because we were like hurting. And I had a friend that was on a baby board, and she was really amazing. So she like saw the pictures and took pity on me, and she pointed me to a forum called I Love Photography. And then I realized that I was actually a really horrible photographer, because I was looking at all these other like photographers, and I was like, holy crap, these people are awesome. So I put my camera on manual. Almost from as soon as I got it, and I made myself learn. The first year of pictures of my kids, they're like purple and underexposed and grainy, but I don't know, it just blossomed, and then I just took my camera everywhere. I took it to Walmart or Target, and I mean, this is before it was cool. I did this like 4 or 5 years ago. I started in 2006, so it's been about 7 years roughly now, and I think a lot of it's one of those jobs you learn on the it's on-job experience. I didn't start my business till 2009, and the only reason I started my business is because my husband worked in aerospace, and we had no money, and we were like on the brink of losing our home. We had nothing. Our daughter's disabled, and we had just given birth to our 4th child, and we had done relatively okay. I mean, we weren't like, we were just comfortable. So when he got furloughed and all his overtime was cut, we know if we don't do this, it's going to get real bad. So I started my business, and it took off like crazy. I didn't expect it. Even now, people, they're like, well, do you have an assistant or some way to manage your emails? And sometimes I don't get to them as quickly. I try to do it within the first day or so. But I like to be personable, so I try to take a moment to respond to everybody on the fan page or email, even now with the fan base growing. You don't forget where, your roots are, and I'm such a nerd. Like, I'm so awkward and not shy, but in real life I'm kind of introverted.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's
So am
funny.
I.
Like yeah, I'm quirky. Like you know, I'm online, and I have a sense of humor about life I get from my family. I come from a lot of strong, kind of insane women. So, you know, I see funny things and things that probably aren't funny, but when it comes to like meeting someone in person, even now I'm all nervous. My face is all red. I'm not like a good, you know,
Oh,
I'm
you're doing
just,
fine. So a few things there I thought about was one thing. What was that noise? That was weird.
did I get too close?
No, I don't know what that was. As long as it doesn't continue, it might have been on my end. Um, it's for all of us to keep in mind. You know, a lot of times people like to criticize moms with cameras
Mm.
and be critical of that. And you never know that the mom you're criticizing with a camera could be the future Sarah Cornish. You know, because
Oh,
everybody starts off at one point. We don't all start off. We're not all born.
no,
Maybe some people are, but most people are not born an artistic genius.
no.
Um, and the thing is, can you go from where you are to where you want to be? And you never finish growing. But before you start being too critical of that mom with a camera or dad with a camera, it doesn't have to be just moms. Um, keep in mind that everybody started off somewhere there. So that brings me to my next question: is how did you get yourself from those purple pictures? I think you said purple to where you are
It,
now. What was the best way that you learned? What was the thing that helped you the most in improving your skill?
I think a lot of it was just practice. And I had a couple friends that were really kind, and when I thought I was making good strides, we would message back and forth. And one of them was just starting in photography at the same time as me, so we kind of grew together. You know, I didn't really have a mentor, or because then, I mean, workshops weren't around. You know, there was a couple photography communities, but there weren't like these. They're everywhere now. You know, inspiration sites, all that was non-existent in 2006 for the most part. And I Love Photography was, I mean, there were so many talented people, but it's kind of intimidating when you're not extremely outgoing. I didn't really post. I just like to stay back and kind of lurk and read. But I mean, even that helped me tremendously. It was a free forum. So being I didn't have any money, I didn't have to pay to subscribe. So I literally would just sit on the board, you know, when the kids were in bed at night with a glass of tea or a cup of wine. And I would, you know, read people's criticisms and feedbacks and other people's posts. If somebody had something to say, you know, about somebody else's photo, it might likely be a mistake I was making. So it helped me kind of identify some of the same things that I was struggling with. A lot of it too is just reaching out. You know, like my husband or whatever, he pretty much just dealt with all the, you know, I'm so dramatic sometimes. So, you know, I get so frustrated and have these stupid crying jags, and he's like, why are you crying? But, you know, I honestly think when I'm emotional, I take better pictures. So I think that worked out for me. I'm very stubborn. Like, I'm hard-headed, but I'm also a really hard worker. So when I take an interest in something, I just don't give up on it. You know, I
Right.
literally and I didn't just take pictures of the kids. If there was a technique I wanted to learn, I would set up the kids' stuffed animals or their dolls if they weren't available, and I would practice taking pictures of their dolls. You know, plus I kind of was always passionate about kids and families. I really had an interest to be a wedding photographer, or, you know, even now, like I mean, I have almost 5 kids, so, you know, I focused my attention on that, and I think it helped me grow more because instead of trying to divide myself among all these different photography aspects
Hmm.
and I just specialized. And even now, I love it. I'll do like an occasional, you know, engagement session. I love couples. I mean, come on, you can tell them where to stand. It's wonderful, and they stay exactly where you put them. But I love kids. I love when I do my client questionnaire, and they're, you know, I'm like, what's the one thing you want me to know? Is there one thing that you're, you know, concerned about? And they're always like, well, I have this one kid, and they're going to give you a hard time. And like my one mission in that whole session is to get that one kid to like love me. You know, like, you know, I want them holding my hand and putting flowers in my hair by the end of the session. So I think a lot of it's just hard work and not quitting. You know, I could have given up and said, oh, this isn't for me. I'm not really good at it. It doesn't come naturally. But I just kept pushing forward. You know, oh, and
Yep.
I didn't spend a ton of money on gear right away. Everybody thinks they have to have the biggest, newest camera or the newest lenses. It took me years to acquire what I have.
So what did you start off with when you started your business?
Just the Canon Rebel. It was an XTI. There was actually a newer one out at the time. And I ended up choosing just to go with the less expensive model because I knew I wanted to learn on it. And I literally didn't even upgrade until, I don't know, 2009. So I used my Rebel for a good 3 years, and I had a 60 millimeter macro, and that was it I used on it. I bought a zoom too, but it just, zooms, I knew right away zooms weren't for me. They're great, and I love what other people do with them, but I just like to be mobile, and it helps me kind of think about my composition and what I want to do before I do it. So it keeps me on my toes, you know, for me, because I'm restless. Even like when I'm home, I have to do something all the time. I drive my husband nuts. So.
Well, that drive is what keeps you going.
Yeah.
So how would you describe your style then? Because you've developed kind of a unique style to a lot of your photos.
So I don't know. It's so hard to pin it to one word, and I've seen so many people be able to like sum it up. Even when I do the inspired project, like the interviews with the photographers, it's before I try not to read their interview before I type up my description of them, so people don't think I'm being biased or just generic. So I try to say something nice about the photographers that let me feature them. And I'll always, it's funny, a lot of them I'll say in the description, and then as I read the interview, they'll describe them exactly with the same words that, so I like that. But for me, I'm just, I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of whimsical, but not in like a, overall fairy tale sense. I just kind of see life in like an overly optimistic, happy, bubbly way. And I love the real moments. I don't think that kids have to be smiling to make a beautiful picture. If they're grumpy, I love that too. I just think real. Like, I just love life. I love people. So it's so hard to like sum up, because a lot of my photography is what I'm feeling at the time, not so much just what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's one thing. Everyone's always, I did the organic word. The organic word was one for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to nail it down. I mean, and this is video. You can put more than just one sentence to it too.
I'm telling you, I've tried, even, like, because they always say, I went and saw Jasmine Starr at WPPI a couple of years ago, and she said, you really should find words that define you so that when people are looking at your work, they know exactly, what you're about. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I wouldn't even know how to describe me as a person, so trying to describe your work.
Well, how about we narrow it down a little bit? And if these are, I don't want to be too grilling, so don't take them that way. But so I was making a list of questions, and one of them was, and we got some out in chat. If I miss yours out in chat, say them again, because chat window's a little small right now on my screen, and I may need you to say them again if I miss it. If not, we'll leave a little bit of time toward the end of the show too to ask some other questions. But along those same lines of how you would describe your work, what would you say is your greatest strength as a photographer? What gives you the most drive as a photographer?
I think if it were to be my personal work, I think a lot of it's just my perspective. I appreciate everything because I know what it's like to come from struggle and have a hard time. And, we may do without any money or any of, life's little luxuries for years. So the simplest things are amazing. Or maybe I'm just, like childlike in a way. I have kind of a big imagination, and I see things as my kids would sometimes. I can relate to them, so I don't box things in. Like if my kids want to do something fun, I'm all for it. Like the other day we jumped in the river in our clothes, and it was totally unscripted. They actually wanted to grab their bathing suits on the way there, and I was like, no, just go in your clothes when we get, like, I just don't.
Oh, you're an awesome mom.
I don't mind. I love it. It's fun, and I always see things in pictures. It's kind of an illness. I always, when the light's coming through, and it's funny because I get people on the fan page and they're like, oh, you have such gorgeous locations, but I actually love when the locations are lacking. I'm spoiled here, but I just even love the challenge. I like to try to take something that's not what would be considered necessarily normal or pretty and try to make something beautiful out of it. I mean, we live in a rented house. It's humble. We just happen to have great windows, but it's, we have like generic carpeting and, the Formica countertops, but when I take pictures of my kids in my house, I don't see any of that. I just see the light and the kids in the picture and whatever they're doing in the moment. So, I don't know. I just think I'm kind of like an equal opportunity girl. Okay. I'm not, I'm not fussy or fancy. I'm kind of, when I'm not pregnant, I'm totally all about the beer and the cheeseburgers. Well, the cheeseburgers are still popular, but.
Yeah, I saw somewhere where you, well, I don't know where I saw this, something that you're a fan of cheeseburger and beer. And,
big time.
And also, I thought, I didn't wear the shirt tonight, but I thought I read somewhere where you are a Duck Dynasty fan.
Big time. We just found it, and I'm like, I want them to adopt us. I want to be in their family. I want to be, and I love that. You know what's funny is there's so many stereotypes out there. They're just awesome people. I mean, we have family that live all over the country, but mostly in Connecticut. And everyone thinks that we're rich in Connecticut. And I'm like, oh gosh, I missed our town.
I grew up in Louisiana, and they're north. They're North Louisiana. I grew up in South Louisiana, but it's good to. We love the show here at our house, and I have an Uncle Si shirt. I was going to wear it tonight, but I don't know where it is.
I love him. Actually, I want to take pictures of their family. Like, I'm not a big celebrity person, but if I got to pick like one family, their family, and I actually, when I like somebody, I don't want to say stalkerish, that's really creepy, but I like to read everything I can. So me and my husband were in bed Googling while we were watching the show the other night. He's just like me. And he's like, oh, wow, you know, they adopt all these children, and they're like these great Christian people. And I'm like, I love them even more. So.
Well, did you see the episode where they had the photographer come on the show?
Yes, the dog photographer. That was.
He's been on our show.
Really?
We had him on the show. Cesc Castile. He's a great guy.
But hilarious.
Yeah, anyway, I saw that, and I go, because it took me a while to get my wife on. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the show, but I saw that about you, that you wanted to be adopted by them, and I wanted to mention that. And the first time my wife watched that show, she was like, yeah, this is a guy show. I don't like this thing at all. Now she can't wait for the new episodes.
It's feel good. It makes you feel good when you watch it, like their wedding. The episode I just watched with the wedding.
Last week, yep.
I want to set that up and just take pictures there. It's so pretty. Of their family they're just so, I'm sure some of it's scripted, but I don't know. I just love I'm not like a fussy, snooty person, so when I meet someone else that has like the same, though I couldn't eat like squirrel brains. I mean, that should be put out there. I'm not that.
Yeah, I mean, they're some of the things you might not want to do. Anyway, back to you. So I started the last question. The last question was, what's your greatest strength? Now, maybe let's go the opposite way. What would you say, as a photographer, is your greatest weakness or the thing you'd like to improve the most?
You know, I think a lot of it is just wrapping up so much emotion in my work. I take things way too personally sometimes. I'm not like the kind of person that feels everybody needs to like my work, but I have a hard time when people don't like me. It's just like a quirk. I'm very sensitive, and I'm kind of used to like being introverted, so awkward social situations are kind of like, I get really insecure. So, you know, even with my sessions, my husband's my security blanket. He comes to every single session. It's amazing. We get a babysitter, and it's almost like a date night, but in a weird way with someone else's kids. So I guess I shouldn't call it a date night, 'cause that's just creepy. But, you know, it's just, we go out there. But, you know, as far as like client interactions, everyone always says it's bad to kind of friend your clients and the people you take pictures of, and I'm totally opposite. I'm like, find me on Facebook so we can talk and we'll exchange recipes, even though I don't really cook that well. You know, just, I don't know. I put so much of myself out there, and, you know, a lot of people are very work-oriented, whereas my business is very personable, so when you do expose so much of your true self, it's really easy to get hurt. And it's easy, you know, some people don't realize that there's a person on the other side of the computer with feelings. So when you're a little softer and you're not, you know, a thick-skinned person, it's really easy for someone to come along and make a comment, even not intentionally. It's just hard to read tone on the internet, you know. So sometimes when someone were to make a comment or something, I always feel like I need to diffuse and kind of, I don't know, that's my hardest thing.
Yeah, well, and that goes along the line somebody said in chat a minute ago, and it's rolling off the screen. But they asked, "Do you get comments and questions on some of your photos that you post on there?" And I guess they're thinking more along the negative feedback. And how do you handle that, both professionally and personally?
I've only had a couple. Knock on wood. Oh my God, I don't want to even go there. I don't like it on the fan page because if it's a client photo and you have a client that isn't into photography, they're, you know, not really looking at it from a creative perspective. Mm-hmm. They hired you to be the creative person, and they're trusting you. So if they see someone else criticizing, they're extremely protective of their family. You know, I actually posted about this on my personal page because I have a lot of friends on my personal page, and I wanted their opinion when this happened because I am pregnant and I'm hormonal, and I didn't know if I was being too sensitive or... But I posted a picture of a baby, and I like to chop people's heads off in pictures. It's just a nasty habit I have, but I love it creatively. And someone commented, and it was just all about the baby rolls and the cute fudge. It's just something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, this is really awkward, and I wish you didn't compose this. But it was not phrased in a friendly way. It wasn't even like a constructive. It was just kind of like someone picking apart your photograph. So I hid the comment initially, and then someone's like, well, you should just delete it, because people can still see it if, they're friends with this person, and I just don't like negativity on the page at all. So I ended up deleting it, but being who I am, I felt I needed to message the lady personally and leave a kind, and tell her it's not that I don't appreciate your feedback, and, I'm always open to, any kind of, if you want to message me or you have an opinion, please do so. So I try to, soften it so they don't think, oh, this lady's so snotty and she thinks she's better and she just deleted my comment.
Yeah.
I wanted her to know my clients, think their baby's absolutely beautiful, and they might take what you have to say out of context if they don't necessarily, and if they don't answer back, then I know they were trolling a little bit, or if they're rude after that and they continue to persist. But most people just don't know, and they'll apologize, or, oh, okay, it's just, you can't win them all, unfortunately.
Right. You can't win them all, and you're never going to please everybody.
It hurts my feelings, and I know it hurts other photographers' feelings. We've had discussions with other photographers, and I know that you put so much of your heart into your work, and it's such a personal business, so it's hard not to, register, because it's amazing. Like, you'll get 100 wonderful comments from, all kinds of wonderful people, but that one comment kind of just killed it.
And I think I don't have the comments up because I don't want people to see that and talk about that, but I think I might have the photo up that you're talking about. You can see the baby's chin down, and you can see, and there's a photo right before that where you got to see the whole baby. But in this photo, you're able to see just from like the chin, maybe the lips, maybe right at the lips. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
down.
And I crop it in camera like that too. A lot of people ask me. I'll make sure you get the face. Obviously, the face is the most important.
Sure.
Mom wants to see the face, but those details are so fleeting. They don't last long. My kids are actually really fat babies, and then they get really skinny really quick. So I'm like, oh, I need to get that before, because I love it. We were Michelin babies. That's what my mom used to call us. We were like really chunky. So to have such skinny babies, they're born big. My last baby was almost 9 pounds. Sophia was 8'12".
Yeah.
So we're banking on it.
Yeah, and I got I pulled up the one right before it. So you don't take all your shots of just cropped faces. Obviously, you get the normal shots too. And I'm showing that one now. Okay. There was another question: is what? And it rolled off the screen now, but it was, what is your favorite lens?
Oh, I get that one a lot. What's funny though is because I only use primes, and I can't usually rely on different focal lengths being in one lens. I'm always having to think, when I want to take a picture, well, what does my focal length need to be to achieve what I want my end result to look like? So my lenses are all, like, I love them for different reasons, obviously. The 135 has, beautiful compression, and it's unique for that, and the 85L has gorgeous bokeh. But the 35, I can get closer to the kids, and I don't have to back up so much, so I don't really have one lens, because I use every single lens in my bag on any given session, because it just gives me more flexibility to be creative. Now, when I'm in my house, like for lifestyle, I'd probably use like my 35 in the house, because I have a full sensor camera. Just because, I can get closer to my kids and still have a little room to move around. But, I've actually pulled my 135 out in the house before. And the thing is, the 135 is brand new compared to all my other lenses. And I started with like a 35 or a 50. I can't even remember. So it's so hard to get used to a really long lens like that when you're so used to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a 35 or something, yeah.
I was like, holy, even my 85, I'm, still pretty close compared to, I feel like I'm out in the woods somewhere. It feels so weird to be so far away. I feel like a creeper, like I'm hiding in the bushes.
How long ago did you make the switch from a crop sensor to a full frame?
I think 2009.
Oh, so right away,
so about
early.
4 years ago.
Yeah, and 2009 is when you started the business.
Well, I started in 2006 with the. So I had the.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. I can't hear you.
Yeah. I think you're better now. So
all right. I know. I think I couldn't hear you there either.
You're good now. So I
Okay.
think you were talking about you
Okay.
started off with a crop sensor camera, maybe. Did you? Can you hear
Yep,
me?
in
Yeah.
2006, and then I didn't start my business for 3 years. So I didn't actually upgrade until I went into business. But even the full sensor camera, the Mark II was out at that time, and I went with the classic 5D.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I ended up upgrading for that is because it didn't have the automatic sensor cleaning, and it drove me nuts. So then I ended up going with the Mark II. But then the Mark II, it started to go soft over time, and I kept having issues with it. And so many people had struggled with the focal system.
Right.
So I ended up going to the Mark III just like late last year because Adorama had like this ridiculous deal on it, and I ended up getting it. I think I got it for like 2,800 or something like that when it was still like 32 or 33. So it was a big investment. At this point, the only reason I do it though is because it's a tax write-off too. Like if it weren't for being able to do that, I mean, I think it's good just to know what you have. The challenge is nice, and I've seen some like amazing photos come from a Rebel. Really, like mind-blowingly beautiful. It really doesn't matter. It's all how you work it.
Yeah, I think that's a struggle a lot of people have is you always hear it's not the camera, it's the photographer, and for the most part that's the case. But you don't see a NASCAR driver driving a Ford Festiva or a
That's true.
I mean they're not out there in the race course driving a Prius.
That's true.
They're out there driving something else. So it doesn't mean you have to have the best to be good, but having good tools doesn't hurt. And
Well, it helps a lot. It helps you save time. It helps you save money in the long run. It seems like it's an expensive investment, but even just having the bigger megapixels, I have peace of mind when I need to print my photos huge. Or I don't know. There's definitely, you really have to weigh the pros and cons and make sure that it's a wise decision. If I were just to stay a hobbyist forever, I probably wouldn't even upgrade so often. But being in business, I have to make sure that my camera is reliable,
mm-hmm.
and my husband's actually taken an interest in photography a little bit, and so he uses my Mark II, so that didn't completely go to waste. I still keep both bodies.
And we're never going to get through all my questions here, so I'm going to start taking some from chat so I don't get too many of those built up. The question about the editing, and this happened before, but I'm going to feed it into one question, is do you edit all your photos, and what do you use for editing? Photoshop, Lightroom? Do you use actions in Photoshop or presets in Lightroom? What all do you do?
I do use Photoshop CS5. I have Lightroom.
Come in.
Please call my doorbell. Hold on. We never get company. Oh, don't mind the belly. Sorry.
Quick pause in the show. So, guys out in chat, Avon's calling.
I'll let my husband get the door. Hold on.
You will, make sure you post some of those questions again. I'm going to try and get them in, and I'll get some of you guys out the way so we don't wait on mine, because I had a long list here, and I'm afraid we're going to run out of time before I get you guys. So,
all right, there we go. Sorry.
If I missed it, post it again.
I tried to get my husband to make an appearance. Maybe this will work out.
Well, sometime before the show ends, you're going to have to bring the kids in, because I think some people showed up for the kids.
For the kids. Well, here comes the dog. Hey, shh, shh, shh. It's only say hi, Miles. There you go.
Hey, Miles.
Right.
Hey.
Calm down.
That looks like Duck Dynasty dog. There we go.
Hey, that's what we have a Rat Terrier and we have a Jack Russell.
Yeah.
So she's all right. You okay? She's playing Temple Run, so. Can you say hi?
Hi. What's her name?
Sophia.
Sophia.
What's your name?
Sophia.
Sophia.
Yeah, that's why I brush her hair. She didn't. All right, I'll stop. Yeah, but the Photoshop processing.
Yes.
I started with CS5, and CS3 years ago, and then I upgraded to CS5, and I really started to get a feel for it, and I loved it. And then CS6 came out, and I'm like, no, I'm not even going there right now. But now they have that Creative Cloud.
Yep.
So I'm like, do I really want to go there too? But I do use Lightroom once in a great while. I used to just use it to import pictures to the iMac before I figured out how to use my card reader and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just like the layers because I'm used to it. I started with graphic design in Photoshop before I was even into any kind of photography too much with the camera. I use Photoshop to make like scrapbook pages and stuff like that, so it just kind of came naturally. And then I use my own actions, but I do a lot of my own tweaking too. Like I'll run an action and then I'll just kind of customize it to that photo. I never run something and then just leave it alone.
Right.
You know, because it's not even when I create them on my own photos, it's never a one size fits all. I've tried to actually like minimize my workflow by using Lightroom, and it's fun. I feel like I'm cheating on my Photoshop.
Well, you know, we've had this debate on the show before, and it's whatever works for you. If Photoshop works, if Lightroom works, whatever. I will tell you that Photoshop CS6, the only way you can get it is to subscribe. You can't buy it anymore. So you can get just Photoshop for I think $20 a month or something like that. Or
yeah, they're trying to, if you upgrade now before their prices go up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, or if you get the entire creative suite, you know, now you're talking, you know, quite a bit more money. It could be, if you can't get like the teacher discount, it could be as much as $50 a month. So that can get expensive.
Well, yeah, because a lot of people, it's just another business expense. You definitely don't become a photographer to get rich at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because people do ask. They're like, "Do you make really great money?" And I'm like, "By what standards?" Because, you know, it's not as glamorous as people would have it be. You do it because you love it, not because it's, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, you hope the money comes. You hope some money comes along too. But like you said, there's you know the websites. There's you know the camera equipment. There's the software, and there's the computers too.
Yeah.
All that costs.
I'm constantly learning something.
And somebody had a question out in chat that I'm now trying to remember because it went with mine, and now crap, I've lost it. While I'm looking for that, why don't you tell me just quickly about you mentioned it before, the Inspired Project, and what all you did with that, because you interviewed several. I lost track. I don't know how many, but
There's I've been very blessed to kind of get to reach out. And when I first started it, I just kind of wanted to rehumanize photographers, because for some reason these photographers kind of come into the industry and, you know, they assume that some of the people that have been there were born with a camera in their hand, and we don't all start out the same way. So I just wanted it to be kind of like, hey, we're all the same. You know, well, you know, even I get starstruck, I'm not going to lie. Like when I get like an email back, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to let me interview them. So I'm guilty of the same thing, but I kind of wanted people to see that, you know, you can come a really long way in a short time, but you can also take years, and that's all right too. Your journey isn't going to be the same. You know, I try to ask questions that maybe people would be afraid to ask other photographers that might be a little more established. Stop making faces. Sorry. She has clothes. You don't have undies on. Go get undies on.
Yeah, this is a family show. I don't want to get banned from iTunes also.
Yeah, serious. I warned you. No, but and you're still sitting here. All right, just sit like that. So, what was I saying? Like that totally just killed my train of thought there. Sorry. Oh, Daddy's here. Now you have to say hi because you're already here. Say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, saying hi to your biceps. He still works out. I don't. I never actually worked out. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, but what was I going to say? What was I just talking about?
We're talking about the Inspired Project, but we can.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, you know, I messaged photographers that were just starting out, as well as some photographers that have been around for years. You know, we did Jasmine Starr, which I had a geek out moment with that. I was like, holy crap, she's answering my questions. And Bobby Mike, people that I discovered when I first came in the industry.
Yeah.
Even though I don't do weddings, I still love different kinds of photographers. You know, we did, I mean, just a whole bunch of different really awesome people. You guys are distracting me. See, I told you. I have I have no attention span. My ADD is kicking in. There we go. No, but there's only one kid. That's not too bad. No, but, you know, it's a nice way to kind of celebrate different photographers and kind of show that we're all on the same wavelength. And, you know, like for me, it took me years. Some people really do like buy a camera and they're awesome right away, and I'm completely jealous of that. But that's not normally the case. You know, it's okay.
It takes work.
Oh yeah, and I love that, you know, they kind of represent different aspects of the industry. We've done documentary style photographers. We've done nature photographers. I did an urban photographer. You know, we have children and family. So, and then, even then, they're like way different studio or, you know, than anything I do. So it exposes people to photographers they might not normally know about or see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've tried to get you to come in, on the show and be a co-host and do some of those, but I know
I love that.
I know
I'm such a
you're crazy busy. But I figured out the question I want to ask, but somebody out in chat reminded me, and that is, you know, a couple years ago you moved from Connecticut to Colorado. So a couple things on that. One, do you still think of Connecticut as home? Do you miss it? And how are you adjusting to Colorado?
I love Colorado because our kids are doing wonderful. They love it. We're weird. Like, we just get in the car and drive around and we're always exploring. I feel like a child sometimes. We literally get it. We just a few weeks ago, my husband was Googling sand dunes that he had found in Colorado. And then the next morning he woke up and he said, let's take the kids camping. So we literally woke up and planned a camping trip and drove 5 hours. You know, but I miss my family a lot. You know, my mother is back in Connecticut. My mom works for the state of Connecticut. She works for the DMR, so she works with mentally handicapped people. Mm-hmm. And she's been with her job for a long time. And her clients are like family to us that, you know, growing up, it was just part of life. So it's hard to kind of, you know, for her to leave and just come here because she's very busy. And, you know, my sister actually moved out here for a year with me. And she needed to go back to school. That was hard. You know, her moving back to Connecticut again, because she kind of made Colorado feel more like home. She was like our little piece of home here. So when she left, I had a really hard time. I'm just a sentimental, like, mushy person. But, you know, me and Wes, my husband and I, we've been together since I was 16. So we're used to being together all the time. We really don't get it doesn't make any sense because people are like, I don't need my space. I am a total Klingon. I own it. We're like completely, we go to like a gas station together. It's just weird. But being out here, I think because him and the kids are here, it grounds me. And if it were just me out here and I were here for any other reason and I didn't have them, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd already be back in Connecticut. Like yesterday I would have. But the scenery is just different. And the people are so friendly. You know, it's easy to make friends out here.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of great photographer friends. And my client base is really built up. So if I stay so busy, you know, between just work and the kids' activities and stuff that I don't give myself so much time to dwell on it.
Yeah, I think what you probably feel the same way I do. Is my family is my home is where my family is, and if we move the family somewhere else, that home is now, that place that we're staying in is now our home. As long as the family is together.
I agree.
Now, did you find it difficult because you were probably established as a photographer, your business was established in Connecticut, and then moving to a new location? You know, we have people who are in the military who watch the show, and of course they don't have much control over their movement. They have to move, or your spouse or you or whatever, you have to move for some reason. How difficult was that move from business point?
From a business perspective, it was incredibly hard, and it put a lot more pressure on me. Because I went from Wes having his job of 11 years and, you know, being a stay-at-home parent before my business took off to now being the sole provider. And we do okay, but I'm not used to that weight. You know, now I'm starting to put myself in my husband's shoes and like, oh, wow, this is what he dealt with all those years, making sure food's on the table. So, you know, being out here, you know, I've never had to hand out business cards or everything was word of mouth in Connecticut. And now, you know, you do have to put yourself out there a little bit, and it's a little awkward when you're not used to it. You know, you don't want people to be like, who is that creepy lady? Like going up and be like, I want to take pictures of your kids. You have really beautiful children. In my head, if someone did that, I'd be like, oh, that's a little creepy. Like,
it's probably a little better coming from a female than it is from a guy, because that would be even creepier, I think, coming from a guy. Yeah.
Because I am a little socially awkward. So once I know someone, I'm okay with them. I can go on for days, but just going up to someone I'd never met before, you know, I feel so weird, like, oh, I'm a photographer. You know, these days they're like, yeah, you and my friend, and they're gonna be like, this lady's strange. There's something wrong with her. But most of my clients are other photographers, so they come to me because they're familiar with my work online. You know, I get people that travel to me from Wyoming and different states around me. So, and I travel too. Like I went to Seattle and I booked an event out there while I was teaching at a photography workshop. And I go back to Connecticut to visit family. We didn't go this year because I was pregnant, but we went like 3 times last year, which is probably why I don't miss them as much as I should either. But I take my clients when I go back. I figure I get the best of both worlds because I get to live here, and I have my clients in the scenery and the mountains, and then I get to go back to Connecticut, enjoy the beaches and my family and my mom's cooking, and then I get to go. It's nothing's permanent.
Right. Right. So I've asked them out in chat if I missed any questions, but while we're waiting on that, because there is a delay there. Any advice you would give somebody? Now you're, if I did the math right, around 4 years in, right? From being going to business.
I just celebrated my 4th business anniversary August 2nd, so we've been doing like this whole little giveaway thing on the Facebook, just like little random silly things. But maybe just kind of not compare yourself to other people. If like for advice. Like there's so many photographers now, and so many talented photographers, legit amazing photographers. It hinders you when you look at their work. It's okay to really enjoy their work and want to, look up and make friends with them, but I think when you really start looking to other people, you kind of lose yourself. It's harder to be creative, because you're comparing yourself, and it becomes, I've even had burnout before where, I think, like, my work is great, and then these other photographers I'm friends with, I'm like, wow, I really suck. So it's natural, it's part of the process. I think that's the big thing. Just go at your own pace.
I think all of us think that. You look at somebody else's work and you go, oh, I stink.
Oh.
And I'm going to mess up your name, but I'm going to say it the way I see it. Nana Deb says, just tell her she's an inspiration to us all.
Oh, see, I told you guys about the hormones. I was reading like a sweet message before I came on, and I'm like, oh, there goes the mascara. Right before I go on, they're going to think my husband punched me in the eye.
We have video. We saw he didn't punch you in the eye.
The big guns. I like to tease him because he works out every day. I'm like spiteful.
Yeah, a little bit we can see of him. He looks like he's in good shape.
Yeah, it's unfair. He gets hotter as he gets older, and then I've just had so many kids at this point. I'm like, I give up. As soon as I give birth, I'm having a huge glass of wine and some red meat, not cooked fully.
Terry out in chat. This is more of a statement than a question. Says he sees a lot of images online and goes, wow, I wish I had thought of that. So you get both inspiration online from other things, other people, and you can sometimes be intimidated by seeing other people's stuff.
And sometimes you see something and you're like, I could have sworn I thought of that. Why never take a picture? Because I swear, sometimes I feel like there's like a psychic connection. And I'll see something and I'm like, oh, and you do, like you get these ideas and you think you're like so innovative, and then someone actually posts a better version of than what you were thinking of doing, and you're like, never mind. I'm so glad.
We have, I don't do this professionally. I don't do photography professionally, but I have an idea we have a little contest that happens every year in our town, a photography contest. And I have an idea for the shot that I want to get this year, but I don't want to tell anybody because I've got the idea, and I know if somebody else goes and does it, they're going to do better than me. So I want to make sure I get first crack at it. Because if I see
you learn you're not as creative once. I'm telling you, everything's been done and redone. You can't stake a claim on anything because there's always someone bigger and better out there anyway. So I could do something, and then someone will do like their own spin on it, and I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing. Why didn't I I agree.
And now some questions are coming in. Just to cover this, when are you due, and do you know if it's a boy or a girl?
I'm due November 22nd, actually the day before our son Noah's birthday, and it's boy. So now the big debate is if we're going to have 6 or stop at 5, because there's 6 in every generation of my family, and there's 6 in my husband's. It's a number that keeps coming up, and because we already have 5 now, my family is actually rooting us on. They're like, "Oh, you gotta have one."
Gotta go to 6. Yeah.
Most people have the opposite problem. Like, do you know what birth control is? But my family's actually like, "Dude, get on it." And I'm like, "I'm already pregnant. I can't. I just can't do anything about it right now. I'm sorry."
You got to wait a little bit. So what? And we'll do a couple more questions, and we'll let you go because we're coming up on the hour. If you could go back and start over, it was back 2009. You know what you know now, but it's back in 2009. What would you do different with your business?
It sounds crazy, but there really isn't a whole lot I would have, because I think that the mistakes I made kind of ultimately led me to where I am. It made me a more humble person. And I think it, maybe because I never really had that rock star mentality, and even now I'm kind of like, wow, I have so much growth that I still need to do and so much learning that I need to do. I'm sure in 5 years from now there'll even be things that I'll think of then that I probably should be doing now or should have done.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, even just the silly things like giving my time away. I did do, what a lot of people do and kind of didn't value my time. And part of me regrets, because my kids were really small and now they're getting older. My daughter is going to be 12, next year, and she's getting closer to a teenager, and you don't get that time back. But then if I hadn't done what I did, I wouldn't be where I am, because it was all a learning experience, and I grew from the sessions I did and, the business mistakes that I made. So really, I mean, in hindsight, it's you can't do anything about it. You might as well just embrace it and move on.
You can't dwell on the mistakes. You can learn from them and move on, but don't dwell on them. So I have one more question. This may not be I can't remember if I read this or not, but are you a movie person or a book person?
Oh, book person.
Book
definitely.
Person. What's
turn my mind off.
what's been your favorite book recently you've read?
It's funny because I read a lot of like the cheapy Kindle books that you get for like 99 cents,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate them, but I read them anyway because I'm the kind of person, once I start a book, I have to finish it. But the one book I keep going back to, actually, it's a series, is Diana Gabaldon's Outlander series. I've read it like 4 times, and it's ridiculous because each page, like there's like 900 pages in each of these books.
Wow.
They're coming out with I'm a total geek. I'm so excited. They're coming out with a miniseries, and I can't even cancel my cable now because it's like years off, and I'm going to miss it. I don't know. I like historical fiction. Actually, I mean, I like the series so much. I want to go to Scotland now and meet. I want my husband to wear a kilt. I don't think he'd go for it, but like actually Colorado kind of reminds me in my mind what Scotland might look like a little bit. Like I'll see a picture of Scotland and I'm like, oh, that reminds me of here. So I don't know.
That's funny you should mention Scotland, because I had been saying from prior shows, we had like 3 fans who were downloading the show from Afghanistan. So I was saying, hey, if you're coming from, let's just say anywhere outside of America, send me a note, because anywhere outside of America, even if it's like Canada, is exotic to where I live. Heck, Colorado's exotic to where I live. And I got a message from a fan in Northern Ireland who said, not very exotic, but here I'm coming from Northern Ireland. I go, what? That sounds very exotic to where I am.
I want to go to Ireland. I have a friend that's actually they're missionaries and they're in Ireland right now.
Yeah.
And oh my God, the pictures they share. I'm just like, can you just fly me out there? I will take dude. If someone just flew us out to Scotland, they could have their weight in pictures. I don't care. It's one of those like, it's definitely on my bucket list. I have to get there. I'm actually really insecure about traveling. Like I couldn't do it without my husband. I get scared. I'm a big wimp, but. It's just, I would travel alone for Scott. Well, no, I'm sorry, Wes, you can come. I don't want him to think that I'm, like, trying to take off on him. But it's just, I don't know, it's one of those places. It's romantic, and it's different, and it's, I don't know. I couldn't move there, but I could stay there a really long time.
Well, you put it out there that you would go out there and do some nice photos if they fly you out there, and you never know.
Oh, gosh, people should, like, definitely just, well, it's funny because I put so much more of myself on my personal page than I do my business page, so people probably have no idea, like, my sense of humor. But I'm so, like, random and strange, and I just put, like, really random stuff on Facebook. Sometimes, I'm sure you're used to it. I can't handle it. So I call it verbal diarrhea. Like, I literally think something, and it has to come out. And my husband's usually, like, in video game land or doing his van life stuff, so I'm like, I'm just going to tell Facebook because they're going to listen. So... I think one time I put it out that I would like trade my way to cupcakes for a photo session. If someone could really produce my weight in cupcakes, I would totally.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. You never know what you're gonna get there.
I'm telling you. Well, being this pregnant, it's funny when those cravings come on. You just need to. I mean, bacon. It's really funny because bacon has been like one really prominent thing, and I had a photographer friend, send me like bacon flavored candy. So people, they do listen, And
yeah.
It's,
that's awesome.
I would need it, I swear, but I do have it.
Well, you never know. You might like it. Well, Sarah, we're up on the hour, and I didn't get through my list, but that's always a good thing. That
I feel bad.
No, that's fine. That's fine. What that does for me is that, maybe a year from now or whenever, things settle back down, we can have you back on the show again.
Oh, definitely. If you don't mind the crazy, I'm totally down.
Oh, it was fine. It wasn't crazy at all.
They were really. I'm actually like afraid. I'm like, are they gonna go to bed on time tonight? What did my husband do to make them so? It's eerie.
He gave him NyQuil.
Yeah, it's never quite like this. Usually when I'm working, they're like literally all around me. Like it's just my office is the most popular room in the house right now.
I think that the guys out in chat, and guys, it's ladies, people out in chat, they enjoyed seeing both your husband and your child come in the frame. So that was not a distraction at all for us. I don't know if it was for you, but not for us.
No, I don't mind at all. And actually, I don't even think you guys got to see the photo all, but they're pretty much around me all the time.
You have an image. You have an image of that up on your Facebook page. It was one of the ones I had that I had grabbed because I wanted to ask you about that 5. And I know you had said somewhere else that you're not changing the name, but I wanted to just cover that just in case.
I figured I'd incorporate him. I'm even trying to figure out a way to add, the baby into the branding somehow. Make it cute or, so people know, oh, yeah, well, there's another child, but it doesn't kind of take over everything else.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap up the show here, and then we'll do just a couple minutes after in the post-show, and then we'll let you go. So everybody out in chat, thank you for coming. Sorry we had the last-minute little confusion that happened with YouTube. Apparently I got banned for a week. And I know my podcasting buddy Jim Collison is out there, so he's learning this for the first time that I got banned for a week off of YouTube. Lesson learned. Anyway, Sarah, thank you for coming and sharing your time with us. I know you got a busy schedule. Thank you for coming out and sharing all that with us. And guys out in chat, thank you for coming and bearing with me as I rebuilt the page to handle the stream. And hopefully it was okay. If you had any trouble listening to it tonight, the recording version should be fine, and that'll be out in a couple of days. So until next week, keep it raw. All right, that's our close.